All right, Rich, what's one tax strategy that could save a small business owner $5,000 this year?
The simplest strategy for us would be S-corporation election. Um, we find that people have a tendency to open up an LLC. They take distributions. At some point, they're making 100 grand. They're paying $15,000 of self-employment tax, and we go, "Hey, let's figure out a way to pay you a reasonable salary. More importantly, let's not eliminate self-employment tax, but reduce that. And in some cases, it's half of that. It could be $6,000, $7,000.
So, what's the biggest QuickBook mistake you see that's silently costing business owners money?
I think the biggest QuickBooks mistake that we see is just QuickBooks does 10,000 things, and that's great. Unfortunately, it does 10,000 things, and people don't understand that. Hey, I'm booking this incorrectly. I don't understand debits and credits. A good example of that is we recently had somebody who was misapplying sales tax. They had negative sales tax. It looked like the state owed them $30,000. The hard part about all that stuff is they just don't know. They're business owners. They're great technicians. They're killing bugs. They're putting up houses, but they just need a professional to help them through that process.
What are the warning signs that DIY accounting is now putting your business at risk?
I think and recently the biggest warning sign for DIY accounting is paper pencil. I've ran across so many business owners that have used a year-end only accountant, and they literally have shown me a piece of paper with their expenses on it. There's no doubt in my mind that they're missing out on deductions. Uh, they're just not that good. They can think they are, but they're just not.
So, what's one simple tax strategy that could save a small business owner thousands this year?
Yeah, the simplest tax strategy we found, at least recently, has a lot of our clients they're making money. So with that, in an LLC, there's a significant amount of self-employment tax. So we're changing them into S-corps. An S corporation has a reasonable salary, and then we take a distribution. That distribution is not subject to self-employment tax, and in some cases we could save them or even $10,000 in self-employment tax.
All right. What's the biggest red flag that might trigger a business tax audit?
The biggest red flag, and I'll give you two. One is just meals and entertainment, just doing very dumb things, and sometimes that's a percentage. It's looking at revenue and saying, hey, 10% of my revenue shouldn't be meals and entertainment. Uh, the other red flag, and at least here in Jersey, uh, we found companies that should be collecting and remitting sales tax, and they haven't. They just don't understand the rules. They don't understand that based on the service they're providing, it's a taxable event. So that would be the biggest two.
Okay. What's your best advice for a business owner feeling overwhelmed by their finances?
We run across many business owners that the overwhelming part about their business typically is they just don't understand their numbers. They don't have a good handle on if they're making money or not. Uh, in our firm, what we want to do is we want to put financial statements together every month, not because our clients want financial statements. It's so we can look at it and we can help them through that process. Sometimes there's cash issues. Sometimes they're just not charging enough. Their margin isn't correct. Um, but at the end of the day, numbers don't lie.
All right. What's the biggest benefit of year round tax planning versus just filing once per year?
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit of year end is peace of mind. Now, our busiest time for tax planning is October, November. At that point, we have typically 10 good months of data. We kind of have a good idea what the end of the year is going to look like. So not only can we identify what the liability is going to be, but hey, let's come up with 5 or 6 or maybe 7 things we can do we still have 6 or 7 weeks left in the year, um, and more importantly, there's no surprise. We hear it all the time. Hey, the only time I talk to my accountant is in February or March when they're putting it together. They spend a half an hour with me. They always tell me that I owe 30 grand. That's a great client for us.
What's the most common payroll mistake you see New Jersey business make?
Uh, From a payroll perspective, I always say there's no glory in payroll. Either it gets done right, and nobody cares, or if something happens to it, there's, somebody didn't get paid, it's chaos. The hard part for Jersey is the unemployment rates change in the middle of the year. We do payroll for our accounting clients. That change typically happens in July, but we don't really know about it until August. Unfortunately, Jersey doesn't help us with that. So we're on top of that typically, and we have to, in some cases, recalculate payroll. But that's the biggest thing is years later they find out that their unemployment rate went up and they didn't change it.
So, Rich, what's the difference between a bookkeeper and a CPA in simple terms?
What we find is the difference between a bookkeeper and a CPA is just technical knowledge. Uh, a lot of times when we run across a business owner, not only they want us to do bookkeeping, do bank recs, all that kind of put financials together, but they also want us to provide tax planning. And that's from a CPA standpoint, it's our expertise is, hey, how do we make that one call? The one call typically is are we doing accounting work for you? Yep. But we also have the expertise to provide, CPA level tax planning and tax return prep.
What's your one piece of advice for a business owner considering switching accounting firms?
I think when a business owner is ready to switch, it's typically it's typically communication based. They're just either A, they're not getting calls back, or B, they're just not getting good information. Um, and let's face it, it's tough to make that decision. Recently, I had a conversation with somebody. They've been with their accountant since 2004. It's really difficult to put trust in another team. And at the end of the day, you got to feel good that that team's got your back. Um, but I think at some point, if you think it's costing your business money, then it's time to make the change.